but I'm a person, and I feel like, people will like you for who you are if you are true to yourself. And
In professional tennis, we're accustomed to broken records, serves that reach speeds of 150 mph, 5-hour marathons, and prize checks that like lottery winnings. However, nothing prepared the sport for what transpired in the scorching desert. Alexandra Eala approached the net, ready to celebrate after playing the match of her life, her muscles burning and her excitement waning. The crowd was roaring until the stadium suddenly fell silent. One of the wealthiest people in the area, neither an official or a fan, entered the court. Shaking Khaled Al-Rashid, an oil millionaire, took the microphone, looked her in the eye, and made an incredible proposition. $10 million USD for the sweat-soaked racket in her hand, not for sponsorship or a business agreement. It was not a scene from a film. The tennis world was taken aback by this actual occasion. What started out as a straightforward birthday greeting evolved into one of the most poignant moments in sports history. The alleged $10 million racket incident became more than just a headline on Champions Tennis, as we feel the pulse of the sport rather than just watching it. The surprising offer, the confused security guards, and the young champion's 5-second response demonstrated that some things in life are just not purchasable. And in order to fully appreciate how remarkable that was, you must first comprehend the context of Eala's quick ascent to fame as a young Filipina tennis star. Alexandra Eala, a proud Rafa Nadal Academy alumnus, has been sweeping the rankings, stifling skeptics, and bearing the hopes of a whole country. She is more than simply a budding artist anymore. She is a sensation. Eala was locked in when she arrived at the tournament. She just finished a demanding season in which she fought for every point and struggled through qualification. The match had already garnered media attention before the millionaire took the court. She played with such intensity that it was uncommon to witness her forehand bursting like a cannon. She moved almost supernaturally across the court. In addition to winning, she was motivating everyone in the VIP box and beyond. People kept a careful eye on Sheikh Khaled Al-Rashid, who is said to be worth over $50 billion and has private islands, supercar fleets, and a skyline sculpted by his investments. He wasn't paying attention to the scoreboard, though. It was on Eala Al-Rashid, his daughter. She is seen by the globe as an eyes to an oil empire. She was just a little girl with stars in her eyes that day. Eala had been dealing with personal health issues, according to family sources. And watching Eala perform was the only thing that gave her comfort while she recovered. She didn't just admire Eala's game, she connected with her spirit. Eala's unrelenting perseverance had subtly turned into Eala's strength. To end the match, Alexandra Eala crushed a last-second winner. There was a roar of applause around the stadium. Eala Al-Rashid, however, turned to her father inside the VIP box and muttered that she only wanted to hold a piece of that enchantment for her birthday. The majority of fathers may have purchased a replica jersey or made arrangements for a signature, but most fathers weren't Sheikh Khaled Al-Rashid. Weariness set in as she probably fantasized of an ice bath and recovery shake. Eala shook hands with her opponent and waved to the audience as the match came to a conclusion. The security around the players' bench suddenly opened up like the Red Sea. A hush swept across the arena as the billionaire himself, dressed in immaculate traditional robes, stepped onto the court, flanked by stunned tournament officials unsure how to react. The stadium sounded as the sound system crackled. Calm but determined, he motioned for the umpire's microphone. He said, "I am a father," in a powerful voice that was shaking with emotion. Eala froze, clutching her racket closely, not sure if this was an unexpected ceremony or a security breach. "And I will do anything to make my daughter happy." The stylish woman turned back to the young champion after glancing toward the VIP box where Eala was standing with her palms pushed against the glass. "My daughter, Eala, looks up to you, Alexandra Eala. To buy the racket you utilized to win today's match, I'd like to make a $10 million offer." The crowd let out a collective gasp. $10 million for a few $100s worth of graphite and thread from a sporting goods store. But it was more than simply equipment to him. It stood for tenacity and optimism. Ella's face was captured on camera as she glanced at the billionaire and then at the battered racket she was holding, its handle smeared with sweat and sacrifice and the scratches from a hard court. No one breathed for 5 painful seconds. $10 million could secure generations, establish hospitals, fund careers, and alter lives. Most would have turned over the whole bag, not just the racket. Eala, however, ignored the cash. She glanced at the time. "Sir, your daughter's love for the game is worth more than any amount of money in the world." She smiled at Aisha in the VIP box as she walked toward the microphone without first consulting her coach or agent. Her voice was steady and polite. "Since inspiration should never be purchased, I'm unable to sell you this racket for $10 million. Alexandra Eala went on in a composed yet strong voice. "It ought to be distributed." She then gestured for Aisha to descend to the edge of the court beneath the VIP box rather than leaving. After a brief moment of hesitation, security gingerly hoisted the small girl over the railing. Eala lowered herself to eye level with her. She gently placed the racket in Aisha al-Rashid's shaking hands and whispered, "This is for you," offering it for free on one condition. "Like me, you swear to never give up." Sheikh Khaled al-Rashid's daughter Aisha, who could have anything with money, started crying. Sobbing into the champion's shoulder, she flung her arms around Eala. Visibly humbled, the powerful Chick, a giant of industry, stood behind them, wiping his own eyes. The audience did more than merely cheer. They shed tears. For almost 10 minutes, a standing ovation reverberated throughout the arena, reverberating well beyond the court. Since then, the incident has gone viral on social media because it touched a raw nerve in a world full of cynicism. Athletes are viewed as assets in modern sports, which can feel like pure business where devotion has a cost. He was following the reasoning he knew when the Chick made the $10 million offer. There is a cost to everything. You have to pay to have something rare. However, Ella's denial went beyond just turning down money. Value had to be redefined. She turned down the offer, making that racket invaluable. It would have been a pricey memento and a sign of a transaction if she had sold it. She made it into something much more by giving it away, a representation of resiliency, optimism, an encouragement for everybody. Suddenly, the racket was more than just a piece of equipment, became a physical representation of the relationship between an athlete and a spectator and a sign of unadulterated sportsmanship. The lesson was profound for Aisha. She might have discovered that money can buy anything if her father had just bought the racket. Rather, she discovered that her hero recognizes, appreciates, and believes in her because of her passion and heart, not because of money. The moment of the billion-dollar rejection was widely reported on social media. Hashtags like priceless and La Impact started to spread globally. Commentators remarked that Alexandra Eala had just made the best brand choice possible, but the worst business one of her life. Was it truly a bad business decision? Eala might have done something much more significant than cashing a check in reality. She positioned herself as an international symbol of kindness and integrity, which is impossible to create with an endorsement arrangement. Brands look for icons, not just champions, and she became one in that moment that will never be forgotten. But that heartbreaking embrace was not the end of the story. The ripple effects are still spreading across the tennis world and beyond. You must examine her journey in order to completely see why her gesture struck such a deep chord. Eala, a graduate of the Rafa Nadal Academy, has risen to prominence thanks to traits like discipline, perseverance, and faith that were instilled in her early on. Her journey has never been simple. She was born in the Philippines with the aspirations of a country desperate for a world-class tennis player. That's why it mattered so much to give the racket away. She was aware of the importance of fighting for opportunities, finding inspiration, and pursuing dreams that perhaps seem more ambitious than oneself. Alexandra Eala, who was born in the Philippines, has had to struggle for every chance. She left home early to train at the Rafa Nadal Academy in Spain, forgoing time with friends and family in order to follow her goal. She had to contend with injuries, financial difficulties, and the tremendous strain of representing a country's aspirations in a sport that is predominantly played by more developed nations. Tennis legends have taken notice of her rapid ascent up the WTA rankings in recent months. She has been compared to established stars because of her explosive baseline game and tactical acumen above her years. Just weeks before the now famous incident, she stunned a top 20 opponent, making it clear she was no longer just a promising prospect. She posed a real danger. The Filipino tennis community back home has come together in a remarkable way to support her. Every time she competes, venues throughout Manila are packed with spectators, and her impact is causing kids to pick up rackets. She's not only trying to get more ranking points. a generation is being inspired by her. That's why her decision to give away the racket felt so powerful. Refusing $10 million wasn't just kind, it was life-changing for someone who knows the importance of sacrifice and the worth of every dollar, having witnessed firsthand how hard her family fought to fund her path. It served as a reminder to the public that some athletes still view their platform as more important than their own financial gain. The tale didn't stop there either. According to reports, Sheikh Khaled Al Rashid was so touched by her act that he promised to use the same $10 million to fund the growth of child sports in the Philippines in Eala's honor rather than purchasing souvenirs. Although it hasn't been officially confirmed, family sources say he plans to support tennis facilities in underprivileged areas, giving kids who might not otherwise touch a racket equipment and coaching. If Eala's 5-second choice comes to pass, it could leave a legacy that surpasses any personal wealth. A single act of kindness may become a national movement that benefits thousands of young athletes rather than just one person. Entire tennis courts might be built throughout the Philippines in place of a single racket collecting dust in a private collection. That's the kind of math that transforms nations, the multiplication of giving. Sheikh Khaled Al Rashid's agents have apparently been contacted by the Philippine Tennis Association to discuss possible collaborations, and instructors nationwide are giddy with anticipation. In the event that the proposed foundation is realized, former Filipino athletes have even volunteered their time and experience. Aisha was spotted exiting the stadium with the racket in her hand like it was her royal jewels. During the way home, witnesses said she held it firmly to her chest and looked down at it in shock, refusing to let security carry it. Because it couldn't be purchased, that scuffed frame and worn grip might now be among the most significant pieces of tennis memorabilia in the Middle East, not because of its monetary worth. It's something that even billions can't buy, real personal interaction. A hero recognizing that she is important for her own soul, not for her last name. Although the chick has been unusually silent on the internet, people close to him claim the incident had a lasting impact. This man is used to negotiating for billions of dollars, to boardrooms where a signature can change fortunes, and to getting nearly everything he wants. Perhaps for the first time in decades, he had to deal with something that was out of his price range, and his response was one of humility rather than annoyance. He was reminded that beyond any commerce, there is love, inspiration, hope, and dignity. What about Eala Alexandra? The same manner she had left the court, she was calm, humble, and focused on the next task. She declined to make it a spectacle, instead letting the gesture speak for itself as reporters gathered around her in a mixed zone and asked her to explain the viral moment. She merely smiled and stated, "Some things are just for the heart." She didn't use Instagram to tease the gesture. She didn't request a statement draft from her management team. Using principles that had been established long before she ever took the stage professionally, Alexandra Eala just followed her instincts. The moment struck such a deep chord because of that sincerity. Additionally, her social media following has grown by over 2 million on various platforms in the days following the incident. Her influence extended beyond the realm of tennis, as seen by the flood of messages of appreciation she received from nations without even a professional tour. According to reports, major international brands are rushing up to collaborate with her because she displayed something more uncommon than a championship title character, not because she won a trophy. The most valuable asset in contemporary sports marketing is authenticity. Eala just demonstrated how much of it she possesses. The response from the tennis community has been overwhelmingly positive. Other athletes, ranging from up-and-coming talents to Grand Slam winners, have openly applauded her choice. Legends who usually stay off social media have expressed their appreciation for her, and former world number ones have referred to her as an inspiration. In a statement, the Women's Tennis Association, WTA, praised Eala for exemplifying the compassion and sportsmanship that the tour aims to promote. The idea that Alexandra Eala might get a special humanitarian award at the end of the season is gaining traction. In a sport where titles and ranking points are usually used to gauge achievement, this is a unique honor. Because of what transpired after match point, rather than the rallies, which were outstanding, the tournament where it all took place has become one of the year's most talked about events. According to reports, organizers are thinking about putting a plaque on the exact location where Eala gave Aisha the racket as a way to remember the incident. To honor the act, some have even suggested renaming a portion of the stadium. A statue depicting Eala and Aisha's embrace captured in time has been proposed by local artists, while the racket between them represents the link between a player and their fan. The response from other competitors has been mainly positive. Her compassion has been publicly complimented by a number of athletes. However, some have acknowledged in private that they are unsure if they would have chosen the same course of action. The story is only made more complex by such candor. Her decision sticks out because not everyone is wired in the same way. It acts as a reminder that there is always an option, especially in high-stakes situations involving potentially life-altering financial amounts. Unexpectedly, the company that made the racket that Eala used has now come into the public eye. While purposefully avoiding any overt commercial exploitation, the corporation issued a well-crafted statement expressing pride that its technology was a part of such a significant event. They announced a modest donation of rackets to kids' tennis programs in the Philippines rather than starting a gaudy campaign, an action that was more in line with the spirit of charity than with financial gain. Experts in behavior have even expressed interest in the story's psychological undertone. What influenced Eala's choice during those 5 silent seconds? Was it instinct alone, molded by years of sacrifice and morals? Or was it a quick calculation based on something more profound than wealth, identity, legacy, or purpose? The result is a case study of character under strain, regardless of what was going through her mind during that little gap. And faced with potentially life-altering quantities of money, the majority of people undergo what psychologists refer to as a cognitive tug-of-war between emotional impulse and logical calculation. However, Alexandra Eala transcended both. She didn't feel pain. She didn't plan. She behaved with the moral clarity that comes from firmly ingrained convictions during that brief moment, an intuitive clarity that eliminates the need for argumentation. She had an instinct for what was right. The complicated connection between riches and happiness is also highlighted by this occasion. Sheikh Khaled Al Rashid owns nearly all that money can purchase. However, his daughter was unable to get the one item she most wanted. To offer her what she really needed, a rather poor person had to do a small deed. The lesson is universal, and the irony is great. Our most treasured possessions, love, acceptance, connection, and belonging, exist outside of economic structures. They cannot be exchanged, purchased, or sold. They are priceless because they can only be freely offered. Eala's prospects for the future appear promising. Wins will pile up, her rating will keep rising, and sponsors will swarm to a player whose honesty now screams louder than any award. However, she has achieved something far more enduring, a legacy, than recognition and endorsements. This story will live on long after her matches are ended and the victories and defeats fade. It will be recited at tennis clubs, documented in sports chronicles, and utilized to encourage future generations of sportsmen to understand that their impact goes well beyond the tennis court. Additionally, the encounter can light a spark that lasts a lifetime for Aisha Al Rashid. Maybe she'll pick up a tennis racket and discover her own love, or she might pursue other goals. She brought with her the lesson that genuine worth is determined by the strength of our relationships with others rather than by material belongings. When she encounters her own difficulties in the future, she can think back on this instance and realize that some of life's most priceless gifts originate from the heart rather than from material prosperity. In years to come, Aisha Al Rashid will remember the day Alexandra Eala knelt in front of her and decided to be nice instead of greed. This is why we watch sports. Yes, for the athletic prowess and forehands and backhands, but we stay for the humanity. We stick around for the times when the distinction between fan and superstar blurs, when athletes remind us that they are first and foremost people and not just performers. Occasionally, something goes beyond the game, something that revives our trust in virtue and awakens our better angels. Eala provided him a memory, and in doing so, she taught us all a lesson that will last for years, even though Sheikh Khaled Al Rashid may have attempted to purchase a moment. She demonstrated that inspiration is supposed to be shared, not sold, and that some things cannot and should not be made into commodities. She taught that being affluent is not the same as being truly wealthy, and that the heart knows things the wallet never will. If a billionaire offered $10 million for something valuable but eventually disposable, how would you respond? Would you follow Eala's lead and accept the money? Tell the truth, no response is incorrect. The majority of us would most likely accept the money, It's just human nature. Bills, family responsibilities, and financially driven goals. However, observing Aisha's unadulterated happiness and a genuine human connection, maybe there was something Eala knew that many of us still don't know. The most fulfilling life isn't determined by financial records, but rather by meaningful experiences, meaningful relationships, and the knowledge that you've improved someone's life. Tell me how you would have answered in the comments section. In order to ensure that you never miss the drama, passion, and glory on Court of Tennis, please hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell if this tale of love over money touched you. Tell this tale to a person who needs a reminder that there is still good in the world. Keep your heart on your sleeve and your brain in the game till the next time. Let's meet up on the